Steve, I would ask how are you, but Guinness is causing trouble in the background, it sounds like.
Oh, it's wonderful. He's doing great. Wagging
Okay.
his tail, checking
All
things
right.
out. All good.
He's just being a dog. That's all. He's just being a
Just
dog.
being a dog.
Um, I'm glad you're doing wonderful. This is the Stuff Summer Says podcast with
Steve.
Steve. Steve, we have a great show tonight. I have a surprise in store. That's what I'm going.
Oh, I always
say.
love that.
It's a good one. It's a good one.
Oh God.
But we're also joined by Dave Racchini. He is the director of production and operations at Sportsnet Pittsburgh for a great conversation it's very slightly pun intended inside baseball of what happens behind the scenes. Thank you. Happens behind the scenes for a regional sports network to get out the production of all of the games, all of the broadcasts that you enjoy and love. And then we're going to talk about Penn State stuff too. So go ahead and listen to our interview with Dave, and we'll be back after this. Steve, I am very excited to have our guest on because I think this is our first true Pittsburgh-based guest, if you will, this week. And there's no, I guess Penn State media is very high in my pantheon of media, but Pittsburgh sports media is also very important. Our guest this week is Dave Racchini. He is the director of production and operations at Sportsnet Pittsburgh. Dave, how are you?
Doing good. Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, good. Dave, what exactly do you do? What is all under the title of director of production and operations?
It's a good question. So in basic terms, I'm sort of like the executive producer at the station. Whenever we were taken over we went through some changes, obviously last year. We were AT&T Sportsnet, and we were taken over by Nesson, and they changed network name to Sportsnet Pittsburgh. I had been a coordinating producer under the old network, and they gave me a new title of director of production operations. They wanted me to oversee not just the production side, but also start dealing with the operations of the business.
So what does the production side look like? What does that mean for me, the viewer, the person sitting down watching a Buccos game?
So basically, for the live events, which we have the Pirates and the Penguins, and the ancillary programming, which are the studio shows, I'm in charge of all that. So I'm in charge of, for the live events, hiring the game producer, the game director, the talent for the shows, and same thing on the studio side. In charge of me. They're all staff employees on the studio side. So there's the pre-game and post-game producer, they're all staff employees, but they all report to me. So just basically helping, organize, for the game stuff. You have to book the trucks, the production trucks for the broadcast. You have to make sure you get the crews set for home and road games, and then work out any of the problems that may come up. And then on the studio side, again, overseeing the pre-game and the post-game shows is kind of, if there's issues, they come to me.
What does or how large, I guess, is a traditional, in-season Pirates broadcast? And maybe is there a bigger number, smaller number for Penguins broadcasts? I'm curious.
I mean, as far as how many
people involved? Yeah.
It's similar for both. So Penguins and Pirates have about the same size broadcast. And we hire the crew that works on the actual game broadcast. The majority of them are freelance technicians. So they're not full-time employees. Like I said, I hire the game producer, the game director. We have the talent. That's actually one difference between Penguins and Pirates. The Pirates talent are employees of the team, and Penguins are employees of the network. That's the one distinction between those two. But for the most part, we'll have anywhere between 30 and 40 people working on a game broadcast. Home games, we have more because we have more cameras. We have 7 cameras. We have robotic cameras. And then inside the truck, you have the audio mixer, the A1, graphics operator, technical director, scorebug operator, the tape room, which is where the replays come from. We still call them tape, even though we haven't used tape for actually as long as I've been there. We haven't used tape, so that's going back 20 years. So there's quite a bit that goes into it, to be honest.
So baseball season ends, hockey season is starting up. Like, what kind of things are you doing now? And then back to those people. Are these this? I know they're freelancers, but are you working with generally the same people once one season ends and goes with another, and they're doing different things in a different arena or similar things in a different arena?
Yeah, so baseball season ended yesterday. I got one whole one whole day in between our next broadcast. We have the Penguins preseason game tomorrow night. So
Okay.
actually today was the set day where they get the truck at the arena and make sure everything's run. All the cables are run, all the cameras are set up to get ready for the season. So really there was no break in between. And leading up to it, really the preparation for the season starts back all the way back to August, because once the big thing you're waiting for is you get the schedule for the Penguins, but then you got to wait for the next domino to fall, which is the national games that are selected. And Sidney Crosby continues to draw that national audience. So right out of the gate, we lost 13 of our broadcasts in national games. So we're broadcasting 69 games in the regular season and 2 in the preseason. So again, you're setting the schedule. You're depending on who's coming back, if their contract expires or not, then you're working out contracts with the analysts for not just the studio shows, but also the game broadcast, putting together that production schedule, and again, submitting all the paperwork to, the home games are a little bit easier because you're dealing with the same truck for the most part. You're dealing with the same crewer. Road games, it's all over the map. Depending on which city you're going to go to, it may be a different broadcast truck. For home games, we use Mobile TV Group. For the road, we can use Mobile TV Group. We can use Game Creek. Up in Canada, you use Dome Productions for their broadcast truck. So kind of all over the place. So yeah, it's a lot of work that goes into it, because if you send the wrong, you're sending out your crew requests to different away cities, and if you forget a position and you show up and your production crew shows up in Detroit and you're like, we're down a camera operator, that's a mistake, and that ultimately falls on me. And then your question about the technicians, it's generally the same people. So for the home games, we use a local crew called PPI, it's Program Productions Incorporated. I believe I got that right. So we send them our crew request, and then they have a crew in Pittsburgh that goes down and submits. But we have conversations with them and say, these camera operators have worked in the past. We like them. If they're available, try to use them. So there is a lot of the same employees, which means that we get into March and April when baseball starts happening, and you get both teams going at the same time. Sometimes both teams are playing at home. Then you're really stretched thin on crews, and then sometimes you're whether it's replay or TD and so forth. So, but for the most part, it's a lot of the same faces on Penguins and Pirates broadcast behind the scenes.
Gotcha.
I know the technical answer to this because I pay attention to it a little bit more, but I think.
Wait, do you? I can't wait now. I want to find out if you do know.
I feel like I know the technical answer on this, but what's the difference between a game truck in the quality of broadcast that we get as a fan?
I'm sorry. I lost the question.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I was going to say, I feel like I kind of know the technical answer, some of the technical answer to this, but I feel like I'd rather have an expert explain it to me fully. What is the difference? Why is there a difference between the broadcast quality I get from game truck to game truck in terms of quite literally the definition and things like that?
You talking about like HD 720p and 1080?
Yeah. Like
Like
a Penguins broadcast looks pretty sharp, but I'm a Tampa Bay Lightning fan, and not all of these do their broadcasts look 100% as sharp as a Penguins broadcast, or even maybe an ESPN broadcast.
There's different things that can go into it. It depends on how old the truck is. So the trucks are labeled by numbers. So our main truck for home games for Pirates and Penguins is Mobile TV Group 42 Flex. And they go all the way down to, I don't know what the newest truck in the fleet is, but there are times where we get the paperwork for a road game and we are assigned Mobile TV Group 30 or 28. And the lower you get means the older the truck is. Now, generally speaking, it does not affect the broadcast quality. But another thing is we can say that, so one of the changes we made last year was we'd always been broadcasting in 720p. For as long as I can remember, and they want us to go to 1080i, which is supposed to be more clear, more high def. But the problem is when we broadcast the game, we send our signal to our master control, which is located in Boston at NESN headquarters, and then they retransmit that signal to the different affiliates. But some of the affiliates can only take a certain quality, so even though we were doing games in 1080i last year, they were being down converted to 10 to 720. So so there's a lot of different factors that goes into it. It's whether, how can the affiliate take it? How are you transmitting that signal? Fiber's the best way, but sometimes there's backup options too. And generally speaking, you mentioned hockey. Hockey it's more controlled. It's more controlled atmosphere being inside. So it's going to look sharper than baseball, which, especially games you have starting at 6:30, you have the daylight still out there, and then it gets a night, but it's always hard with the video levels come daylight. But so to your point, saying that you see it in Tampa Bay's quality doesn't look as good.
I enjoy my Tampa Bay Lightning broadcast to anybody that's listening, but I think a Penguins broadcast does look a little more clear. I also think maybe that could be a better lighting in the building, things that you're mentioning as well too.
Better lighting, cameras too. I mean, because not just the trucks, but the cameras sometimes can be older too. So that makes a difference as well. Plus, one position in the truck, and we're very lucky in Pittsburgh to have one of the best, is video operators. Like V1, and then they have V2s as well. And they're the ones basically, if you go in the truck and you see the position, they have all these joysticks and they're adjusting the video levels on the cameras. If that's not done right, it's a noticeable difference. And we have her name's Diana Caputo. She's been doing it for a long time in Pittsburgh. She's one of the best. So we're very lucky. So that could also play a part in it.
That's good to know.
You just mentioned Pittsburgh and the home talent and talked about crossing over with teams. Is there a market that you go into that's harder to get talent, or that if you don't get your requests in first? I guess hockey season, there's not competition, but maybe basketball. But are there markets that are tougher for you to find people that you're comfortable with, or how deep is that pool of talent?
There are certain markets that are tougher, and especially when you get the newer markets, like Carolina, for instance. When we go down to Raleigh and do a Hurricanes broadcast, they don't have a lot of technicians close by, because think about it, there aren't a lot of major sports in that area. It's college. That's really it. So for a lot of the positions we request, they have to travel in somebody, whether it's from, I don't know what the closest city to Raleigh is, maybe Charlotte, I guess. So they're traveling people in. Now, what they'll do in that instance, they'll say, hey, we don't have a technical director for this game. We need to travel somebody in. Would you prefer to bring somebody from Pittsburgh? And then that's where you got to kind of manage the cost. What's it make sense? What's the flight going to cost? You're going to pay for the hotel. And manage a budget that way. So there are certainly cities that are harder to, just because Vegas is another one, because think about it, it's more of a transplant city, so you don't have a lot of technicians that live in Vegas. So every time we go and play the Golden Knights, we have to travel in a technical director from Pittsburgh or from LA, someplace like that. Canada can be tough too, just because hockey is so huge in Canada. So they a lot of times it's always a national show up there. Right. So you're sometimes the second or third truck in, so you're getting second and third talent too. But for the most part, it's it's interesting because it's the one thing when I got in this business, I didn't know much about that part of it. I always thought, I wanted to be on air. I sent out my resume tapes, hoping to get a reporter position. But behind the scenes, for the studio shows is one thing, but when you get to the game broadcast, people don't know about it, and it's hard to. And it's once you break in and you can become good at it, then you can stay. You've had quite a few interns that started working as production assistants with us, and I kind of urged them to go, hey, why don't you try the truck side? And for instance, right now, our main director for Penguins hockey was a former intern. Our producer for Pirates baseball was a former intern. Our director for Pirates baseball was a former intern, and they started they kind of worked their way up to different levels of the truck. So. It's you don't see they don't teach it, they don't teach it in college. They're more and more, at least back when I attended Penn State, we didn't have that option of producing games, but now it's becoming more and more available, I guess. Some of the local colleges in Pittsburgh, Robert Morris, they do their own student broadcast. So I think kids are starting to get the sense of what's out there, and that's maybe helping, and Pitt does a really good job. I know I don't want to mention the Pitt name, but
That's okay.
Pitt does a really good job of doing their own broadcast too, and they grow their talent that way. And we've hired a lot of Pitt students to now work for our broadcast too.
Do you remember when you were like, okay, I'm going behind the scenes? Like what was that decision process like for you? And not giving that up, but saying, okay, I'm going to make a change. And I see this is, and then when did you know you were good at it?
So like I said, I sent out probably about 50 to 100 VHS tapes to all different places around the country. Never got a call, not from one person. And then when I was a junior at Penn State, I applied for an internship at ESPN. And it was back then, I assume it's probably still the same. It was one of the most competitive internships in the country. Because I mean, every kid that wants to go into sports broadcasting wants to work at ESPN. So I remember doing a phone interview with the guy. It was the same guy that hires the talent. He was hiring the talent for Sports Center. And he would put me through this quiz where he basically would say, tell me what you know about the Cleveland Indians. Tell me what you know about the Kansas City Royals. And you need to reel off as many facts and players you knew about, all different sports. Tell me the last 10 Heisman winners. And I'm like sweating. So anyway, I did that. He called me back about a week later. I didn't get the internship, but he said, when you graduate, call me. We'll have a job waiting for you as a production assistant. So I knew that was an option. When I graduated, I called him. I went up there for an internship or for an interview. They offered me a position. But at the same time, I was dating my now current wife, and we had about been in a relationship for about 2 years, and she landed a job back in Pittsburgh. So I had a decision to make. I chose to go back to Pittsburgh, and I was lucky because I did a lot of internships in Pittsburgh. And when I was at the NBC affiliate, WPXI in Pittsburgh, I had met one of the guys. He was a part-time producer on a weekend, and I'd kept in touch with him. And when I was getting close to graduating, I emailed him and said, "Hey, where are you at? Anything available in the Pittsburgh market?" And he was at Fox Sports Pittsburgh, and he says, "Actually, we're hiring a part-time position." So, went in for an interview there, and it was, ironically enough, it was for a magazine show called Panthers Weekly. He was working on Pitt Sports. So I took the job there after doing a sales job for about 1 week, which I hated. And still didn't give up on the on-camera stuff. But once I was at Fox Sports Pittsburgh, you saw all the other behind-the-scenes positions, and I saw how much of an impact a producer could have on the production. Really, I mean, if you talk to any on-air talent, any host, any reporter, they'll tell you how important the producer is. Because really, like, they are, I mean, I produce probably thousands of shows. You say something in the reporter's ear, the host ear, they're going to repeat it. So they have to trust you. So, and I've always liked the writing aspect of it. I always thought I was a good writer. And I was still able to do that through producing too. So that's kind of when I knew. But I guess also to go back to internships really opened my eyes. I had done 2 internships in Pittsburgh, one at PXI, one at WPGH Fox 53. And getting to work with those producers there to produce those, they were only shorter segments. They get 3 minutes to tell the day's sports stories in a newscast. But to see that also opened my eyes to saying, okay, maybe behind the scenes is an option too.
Thank you.
What's a successful day at the office look like for you? What's a day when you leave work and you're like, yeah, we had a good day today. We kicked some butt and we had put on some good content.
Clean shows is one. You hate it's funny, the viewers at home have no idea what goes on inside a TV truck or what goes on in a control room. When I was producing shows, you could walk away thinking, that was really bad. We really screwed that up. But the fan at home has no idea because it doesn't show on the air. But so when I was producing, clean shows, good storytelling, some of the best ones that I produced were like around the trade deadline, Major League Baseball, because you'd go into the show with a rundown, a format, and it would just, be blown up because there's a trade announce or something, and you have to adjust on the fly. And there's no preparing for that. Those are the shows that are pretty fun. But now, kind of overseeing it, when I'm not receiving calls, because it's weird. I have an office job 9 to 5, but really during baseball season, I'm on call throughout the baseball game. If there's any issues, I'm getting a call. So I have to keep track of most of the games and keep an eye on it. If I'm not getting a text or phone calls, I know that's a good day, though.
That makes sense. I appreciate that. I guess I'm curious. I mentioned, at the start of our interview, fans share a connection to the media that covers the teams, and particularly with baseball and with hockey, it comes through that way. Why do we have I wouldn't say necessarily intense connection, but a strong connection to the regional sports network?
Because, I mean, listen, you watch, if you're a Steelers fan or an Eagles fan or whoever, whether an NFL team you like, you're watching a broadcast and it's a national broadcast. So it's CBS, it's Fox, it's ESPN, and these announcers aren't tied to the team. But you sit there and watch a baseball broadcast and, Greg Brown, who's been there for over 30 years, he lives and breathes every moment. And when the team's doing well, you can feel his energy. And I think the fans can sense that too. And there's buy-in. I mean, you have to be biased whenever you produce a game, but you're still a fan of that team. You want them to do well. When the Penguins do well, when the Pirates do well, our company does well because it means people are watching it, higher ratings, which means more revenue from sales. So and especially that you talk about the people traveling with the team. I mean, they're basically part of the team. Our game director for Penguins and for Pirates travels on the team charter. They stay where the team stays. Our reporters, same thing, travel on the team charters, stay where the team. I mean, they're around those people. I mean, for baseball, we hired a Penn State grad this year. Hannah Mears is our sideline reporter. She joined us in February, and she was entrenched down in spring training from the beginning of March, and she was with the team through the end of September. I mean, you spend a lot of time getting to know those players, and it's, again, they accept you as one. We tell their stories. They allow us to tell their stories. And that's something you can't get from the national broadcast. I mean, I always thought it was funny because, no matter which NFL team you're watching, if that crew wasn't on the previous week, they'll probably tell the same story because, they don't follow him. But as an RSN, you got to be careful because you have to assume that the fan's watching every single night. So you don't want to be stale in your storytelling. So I think that's the thing. I think the announcers, really get into it, really get excited, and then fans can sense that. And I think they can appreciate that.
Makes sense.
What will you worry about as hockey season begins and starts moving through? Like what kind of things? And you talked about staffing and those kind of stuff, but what keeps you up at night, if anything, or makes you worried as the season moves along?
Well, for hockey, it is, I would say, we're starting something new this year. We're going to do an altcast 6 times this year. And that's a big focus of mine right now. I worry about, because we're going to have 3 people in the studio for the altcast. 2 of them are secured. The third one's going to be a rotating person. And I'm trying to work on that schedule. That's one thing I worried about. For the actual games, there's not much I worry about on a day-by-day basis because, and I sent a text to our baseball crew that just finished work on 150 games for us. I said that, and it's funny you asked me what keeps me up at night. Having that core group and knowing how good they are allows me to sleep well at night. You have to have a good crew. If you don't have a good crew, then you're gonna be behind the 8 ball. If you can trust your crew, and our group in Pittsburgh, we're small. We only have 25 to 30 people in our office, but they've all been there. I've been there 20 years this past August. A lot of our other crew have been there longer than me. There's people in their 25th year, their 30th year. It's a really good work environment, and they care about each other, which I think is very important. So that's honestly, like, there aren't many things that do keep me up at night because of the staff that surrounds me.
Gotcha. Thank you.
All right, Dave, you're a Penn Stater, so we can't let you walk out of this podcast without answering some Penn State questions. Okay.
Okay.
All right. You walk into the creamery. What is your go-to creamery ice cream flavor?
Oh, I don't think I know the name, but I'd say cookies and cream.
Okay. I think it's just cookies and cream.
Good.
Yeah, I think that's
Okay.
Yeah.
And the creamery looks a lot different now than when I was up there in 99 to 2003.
That's fair. you are the czar of Penn State sports. You can make one change for a day. You can make any changes really for a day. But what's your first big major change that you're going to make?
Oh, um, I would say that's a good one. See, my favorite sport's basketball. I did a lot of announcing of basketball games when I was up there. So it'd probably be, can it be historical or is it something to the program?
Whatever you want to do.
It can be whatever you want.
Yeah, whatever you want to do. You're in charge.
I would like to go back in time and have them win the national title my junior year when they lost in the Sweet 16.
All right. I like that. That's a good one. I like that.
Yeah.
All right.
He's embracing the power of his art.
Yeah, that's good. That's like, it's very like deep. Wow. I think that might be the first like history changing one that we've had. And I like that alternative. All right. Last one. You're back in town for one night and one night only. What bar are you walking into? And the bar can also not exist as well anymore.
Well, this one no longer exists. The saloon.
The saloon? Okay. All right. I like that answer. That's a popular answer.
Job.
All right, Dave, where can people tune in? How can people find your work, even if it's behind the scenes?
They can tune in. We're still in a lot of different affiliates. And then one thing we did this summer is we launched a new direct-to-consumer option. So S&P 360. You can go on Apple and download the app, and it's a subscription-based. And if you are in our viewing area, which I believe State College still is, I think the price point's $17.99 for the month, and you can watch all Penguins and Pirates games plus a lot of our historical magazine content.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much, Dave.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Dave.
Steve, I think the main thing that I feel every time we have somebody that's a behind the scenes person is like I'm almost awe-inspired by them because it's like, wow, I didn't realize just how much goes on to get you what we get when we tune into a Pirates game or if you tune into a Penguins game.
I've always thought, and I think that's right. I think you're exactly right behind the scenes. And I came away from listening to him with that. I've always thought Pittsburgh as a sports market and a sports TV market was a substance over style market. Like the people were really good. He talked about how long the people had been there. When you think about the voices in Pittsburgh, they probably aren't, they aren't they're celebrities in the market, but they're there because they know what they're doing. I got the strong sense that Dave knows what he's doing and fans are the better for it.
I feel like that's interesting you say that because I do feel like the one thing, and obviously like I lived in the Pittsburgh sports market, so I don't really have anything else to compare it with, but I feel like that substance over style quote is very true because I feel like there's such a trust that you have with really any of the Pirates crew and really even any of the Penguins crew over the years, even if they've kind of gone through a little bit more changes, that it's never been about the personalities per se, but it's just like there's something comforting listening to Greg Brown in the summer on a summer night type thing. And you're going to be well informed. You're going to get a little bit of lean from it, but that's okay. That's what you want when you turn into a regional sports network. I don't have an issue with that. I feel like there's a line, and I don't think that I don't feel like the Pirates crew really ever crosses it that often. But I think I just think that's something very important for a sports fan to have.
Yeah, he touched on that and talked about, the storytelling, right? Because they can continue to do it because they know people are listening to them. So I think from the regional sports network, you get to do that kind of trust-built connection to the fan stuff. Plus, you also get to do creative stuff. He kind of hinted at an broadcast for the Penguins, and we talked to him after we stopped recording about what that's going to look like. If you're a Penguins fan, I think you're going to like it. I think you like the personalities he finds because he still hasn't hired everybody, which is why we didn't push him there. That's not necessarily what I was worried about doing. But I think you could do both those things, right? You're doing the cool alt cast, but you're also doing we're the home team's network. It's a wider spectrum of opportunities, it feels like, than if you were at a network or at someplace different. So
yeah. No, I think that's cool. The other thing. I think you do get. You even see that with BTN, right? There's more leeway because there's more room for that content. All right. Yep. Well, thanks for Dave for joining us. Let's talk about the football game. Steve, I heard a rumor that you returned to Beaver Stadium this week. Is that true?
I know. It wasn't quite as big a deal as a return to rec, apparently. But, Yes.
They
Check the
didn't
game
roll
out,
out
first
like a
of all.
red carpet or blue carpet.
There was
white
no red
carpet?
carpet, no blue carpet. There was a short line because I went in really early. So
How early?
I was upstairs after making a lap around the stadium with like 58 minutes before kickoff.
Jeez, I didn't realize you got in that early. We were like 50 minutes. Like we walked in with 50 minutes, and
Oh no, I went in early because I wanted to walk around. I wanted to see what was, whatever.
so what did you think? What did you think walking around? Let's start there.
Yeah, I'm going to spoil it because I'm going to write this. I don't know how something can be. I was struck by how something can be both so-so and spectacular at the same time, right? Like it's the same old thing. Like they put some different nifty names in the concession stand. This is Coley something or other. This is whatever. Yeah, it's spruced it up. It's branding. It's nice. New ribbon boards, the scoreboard stuff. There's some nice stuff, and there's also just some old stuff that's just kind of there because the place is old.
Are you getting sentimental on me?
I don't know. I mean, there was a part of me that was thinking that was my next to last game. Like, I don't know. Like,
Quit it.
look, man. $12 slices of pizza, man. I don't belong in a place where the pizzas are.
Just eat.
I know I can't build a
before.
bridge over that.
Eat before.
No, it was a good experience. Like, I think there's a lot they do good. It's the fourth largest stadium in the world. There's a lot they do good. There's other stuff where like, this is the fourth largest stadium in the world. Can't we do that better?
Okay, so what did you think of the game production? Because that's what you're getting at here. So what did you enjoy? What did you notice that was different? Because this was your first game since 2021?
That was last year. I was in last year.
Oh, right. That's right. I forgot.
Yeah.
I forgot.
The scoreboard, I expect to be sold by the scoreboards I was, right? Like that's what they're there for, like the ribbon boards and whatever else. Okay. Out of town scores, good. I forget if you mentioned fonts. We talked about this before with them. I don't know who was making up the abbreviations for the teams that were playing in those games, but I didn't see some of those names ever abbreviated that way before in my life.
I'll have to pay attention to that.
Yeah, it was just, I don't know. It seems like those fonts could be less round and more of a sharp scoreboard looking font kind of thing. Otherwise, production-wise, it was good. I thought, and I didn't know this was a thing, but somebody asked me about it earlier in the day with the 94 team and the recognition for them or lack of recognition for them. I don't think people come to the game for that, but either you're opening yourself up to say you didn't recognize them if you're not naming them by name who's there, because that's just the tradition that I've known there, right? We bring the team back and we go quickly through them. They gave more time to the Nittany Lion mascots through the years to show the face their stuff than they did in 94 team.
All right. Well, I apologize to the former Nittany Lion mascot that listens to this podcast for that comment.
I didn't say they were bad. I just said they were fine.
I will say I saw a couple people kind of grumble about that, and I kind of did think that was odd. Like it was weird to just name Kajana Carter, and I don't know. Because I think that team in particular, I think the cool thing about that team is like it was about a lot of different dudes chipping in and making that team a lot bigger. So I think that's a very fair criticism for people to be upset about. Like either just be like, here's the 94 team, or take 5 minutes at halftime. Not even 5. Take 4 minutes at halftime and really draw it out and let those guys. I mean, that's 30 years ago, so they're not that old yet. But like the 82 team, the 86
schedule it at 7. Say it's going to have it happen. Look, there were my biggest pet peeve remains. There were almost 8 minutes from the time the band lined up with the tunnel for the team until kickoff, right? Put it there. I mean, or put it earlier and then shorten that thing up, because that's still, and that's not going away, because we now have, are you ready for the fourth quarter? We had Kajana asking if you're ready, right? And we had the football player doing, the mic guy going the back and forth. So, and I just remembered the worst one. This was the worst thing about the game day production.
Not the flag, because it was the flag for me.
I know it was the flag for you.
Yeah.
No, they trolled Brett Bielema, which is fine. Go ahead and troll him, but I couldn't hear him. So put subtitles on the screen so we know what he's saying.
That's fair.
Like if you're gonna troll him and egg the crowd on for him saying, whatever whiteout energy is, put the words on the screen and put people in a position to succeed and understand what's happening.
If I remember correctly of that moment, and somebody can, I do think they had it on the 12,000 ribbon boards they now have in the stadium. But yes, I do agree that to put it on directly on the screen. I thought that was clever though. I haven't seen anything like that inside Beaver Stadium. Maybe ever. I couldn't
Right, and
remember
that's
anything,
the
and I thought
that's
that was
the
good.
so and spectacular. Like that was real. If you're timely and it's great, hey, we're paying attention. This guy was dissing us. We're gonna clap back. And I wasn't looking at the ribbon boards because I was looking at him. So if they put what he said in the ribbon boards, I only got itty bitty attention span. So give me the words on the screen and tell me what he's saying.
Okay. All right. I was gonna.
Oh, and they wanted a tip when I bought my self-serve soda.
Yeah. No. That
Which
reminds me too. Yeah.
I was like, really?
No. Maybe if it's the beer because you got to check my ID, but no. All right. I didn't have many complaints this week, but somebody else in the household has a complaint. So here to join us this week is my wife, Anna Summers.
Oh wow, we're pulling in the
That's-
guest.
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Here,
Wait, can you do the slide, the cool little chair slide? No, you
slide
can't.
in? Here. Well, you're knocking everything over.
I feel like we should have practiced this.
It's fine. We're fine. We're high tech with this issue.
I forgot I was going to be on camera. And I'm on my bad side, just so you know. But that's okay.
You have a great. All sides are great.
I'm not even touching that.
Good call, Steve. Hello, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
You're talking to the microphone. Like you have. Wow, she has notes. By the way, she has notes.
I have notes, a lot of them.
Wait, she
So I
said
hope
thank
you're
you for
ready.
having me. Did you have a choice?
No, he suggested this for the record.
Okay, go ahead.
Would I do it with this voice if I were choosing? He chose to wait until I lost my voice and then said, "Do you want to be on the podcast today?"
Wait till we see the quarter-hour ratings. Maybe the viewers will like this. Who knows?
Ooh, I'm excited. Okay, so I am here today to talk about one of my greatest passions in life, and that is food. But more specifically, the food at Beaver Stadium. And the fact that somehow, despite the fact that they have spent $70 million on renovations over the summer.
They're going to.
No, they've already spent $70 million. They've got $630 million left to go. I have seen no improvements in the food. Now, this is stemming because, as listeners of the podcast might know, I'm a pescatarian, so I don't eat meat. This makes eating in stadiums challenging. I recognize that. However, on Saturday, I had to walk across half the stadium to get a meal while feeling very hangry and missing the first 2 minutes of the third quarter because it took me so long to get there. And so I did some research because I just want to state my case because I think that people who have never been to other stadiums in the Big Ten don't understand how bad we have it. And so I just want to share, I did some research at some of the other stadiums. Darian's looking at how many notes I have. First of all, I want to state for the record, this is not all about dietary restrictions, but for the record, 8% of Americans do not eat meat. That's a pretty decent chunk. But the other thing that I want to highlight is I'm thinking of my friend Katie, my favorite celiac person. Also, 6% of Americans are gluten intolerant. I do not see any gluten-free options at Beaver Stadium that can guarantee they're not going to have cross-contamination. That's another issue. But I know most people aren't going to care about that. So that's not what the other statistics I've brought are about. So I just want to do a little comparison here. So Darian has been to all of the 14 Big Ten schools prior to this new expansion. I've been to 13 of them. We've also been to the Rose Bowl. So 14 out of 18 for me. And Penn State has by far the worst food options. It's not even close. So let me list for you guys some of the food options at some other Big Ten schools. I looked on their websites. This is all recent. So Indiana just overhauled their concessions over the summer. They now have buffalo wings, smash burger baskets, street tacos, and personal pizzas. Illinois has barbecue, they have a Jersey Mike's, and they have 4 food trucks right outside the stadium, varying different foods. Wisconsin has grilled cheese and tomato soup. They, of course, have their cheese curds, and they have Kung Pao wings and butter chicken wings. That sounds so fun.
But those, you can't eat the wings.
I'm appealing to everyone here.
I know, she started with the wings, and I'm thinking, where are we going? But go ahead.
I'm appealing to everyone here. Oregon clam chowder right on the coast. Or I don't know actually if they're on the coast, but the state is on the coast. Geography is not my strong suit. Vegan hot dogs, yum. And then, of course, we know that Maryland has our beloved Lido pizza, which is better than all other stadium pizza, as well as a crab pretzel. Yet we are eating these sad chicken baskets and acting it like it's God's gift to Beaver Stadium.
They are.
And I just think we can do better. So, but what I want to point out, all of these schools, what do they have in common? They have smaller football budgets than Penn State. We have a bigger budget. Stop. Most of these schools have a budget that is $20 million lower than Penn State's. Most of them, other than Wisconsin, which is pretty close to ours, but still $5 million less. They've all figured out how to partner with these local restaurants. We need to do the same. Susie Wong egg rolls exist, and the fact that I cannot eat one at a Penn State football game is a disgrace, frankly. And I would like to say... Go ahead, Steve.
What about our boy Pat with his cheesesteak?
That's my next point. Dang, you should have just waited one more second because I was just going to say, even though I don't eat meat, if I did, my first stop would be We Are In cheesesteaks. I think that that's a great improvement, but we need more of that. We have Philly represented. Where is the representation for the western side of the state? Where is my pierogi stand? What do I have to do to get a pierogi stand in Beaver Stadium? I can't think of one person who would not want that. They're missing an opportunity for revenue here.
You let me have a bite of your panini that you got.
It was good. Yeah, it was good.
It was very good.
We just need more. Yes, I will shout out the panini stand. Their paninis are great. But I'm so
glad we're doing food later because Darian was like, no, the panini was very good. And she's like, no, the panini was good. Right? Like there's a difference. So this is gonna be good. As long as you're coming with some solutions, that's good. Like as long as it's not just all,
The solution is $630 million. So we have $630 million of this remaining budget. And I am just hoping that it's going to bring in some more food options. I'm not confident, but I hope it happens because otherwise I'm going to be suggesting a new show to Robert Irvine. It's going to be called Stadium Impossible. And he's going to come in here and he's going to give us some better options. Because, I mean, if he can't do it, nobody can. I didn't tell Darian I was going to say that.
You saved the big guns for last. Look at that. Good job.
But those are my thoughts. I think we can do better.
Any thoughts?
I still think it fits into the same thing for me. We got so-so and we got spectacular, right? Like yes, you're not wrong.
Yeah. So I just want more options. That's it.
And there's a cool little place. Is she in Phillipsburg and Shannon Valley? Rosie's Pierogies, who does the Grange Fair.
Perfect. Let's call Rosie.
So she'd be local.
Okay. That's my official suggestion, Rosie's Pierogies then.
All right. You feel better? You feel better that you got that off your chest?
I just hope that Pat Kraft listens to this episode.
He does, every single one.
Okay, good.
People in the athletic
Pat, if you need a tester or someone's opinion, give me a call.
All right.
See, there you go. You got problem, solution, and a job offer or job request. So good job. You touched the bases.
All right. That's all I had for you guys.
Great.
Good luck.
You.
Good seeing you.
I can't believe we did that.
The chair slide with Collinsworth you need to work on that.
We'll work on that. I feel like I just don't want to get the angry text message that I got at halftime of all of that rant. So that's why I wanted to get that.
Well, you couldn't fix it, right? Those are the best kind. Angry text rant that you can't fix.
So, I thought that was very fair though. I did have the thought about celiacs, people with celiacs. So I thought that was good. I'm
sure if somebody listens to this that matters, they're going to tell us there's one stand behind this place that offers this and whatever else. But she's not wrong. Like but people are still buying, right? It's hot dogs. It's maybe some brats if they exist. It's a soft pretzel. Yeah, but I think there probably are ways. If other places are doing it, then it can happen.
All right. Let's talk about the actual game. What did you think of the actual game?
I was entertained by the apoplectic reaction to like Illinois' first drive and like hell is freezing over and the sky is falling because they drove. And then, just social media a little bit and people like, oh my God, I can't believe this is happening. And then they didn't score again. So, because Penn State's defense did what it was supposed to do. So
I think I don't know if I felt that tense. Like, I think the crowd got right back into the game, and I wrote about that on the blog. But I do feel like, I think the penalty situation that everybody's now beating to a dead horse, right? I do feel like that was annoying enough. And they're too good of a team. There's too smart of athletes, like too high level of athletes to be doing things like that consistently now over the course of 4 games that it hasn't really burned them. But it certainly didn't help on that opening drive. It certainly didn't help on the game-sealing pick six that was taken off the board. That if you go watch it, I still don't know why he blocked him in the back. It was very pointless. So I don't know. I feel like that kind of like left a little bit of a sour taste in my mouth. But when I went back and watched the game, I felt much better about the game. And they looked good. And I don't know why they were like, this sounds weird. They didn't have to throw the ball. And I can't remember the last time Penn State really needed to just throw the ball. Like they could have just ran the ball the entire game and they would have been fine.
Right. And they seemed content to do that, to impose some will and say we could do this and show we can do it. And to the penalties point, I think as fans, I know I do. So this fan will try to read into that of a maturity level or a discipline level, right? And say, oh, well, they shouldn't have those undisciplined penalties. They should be more mature than that, right? And you're looking for faults or things that need fixed. And I don't know if that's the case or they were just hyped up, but it's ingrained in me through the years that a team that has penalties and has certain kinds of penalties is just not disciplined, not being mature and responsible. And then maybe that's the case. Maybe there's just a bad set of refs, whatever else. And if that's the worst thing there is, well, the worst thing there is the kicking game, right?
Yeah,
realistically, that's probably a point for concern. Although I guess it's probably not going to matter for the next week.
2 weeks.
2 weeks. When 2 weeks they're at USC, it might matter out there.
But I don't know. I think that's fair. What I don't understand is what's changed. I think would be the best way to say that, because this wasn't happening last year, and I don't think that's that's not me like being snarky against Tom Allen. Like I think it's just I don't understand why we went from that to this, and that's what I don't get. The kicking game thing is weird. We didn't talk about this, but I was very surprised to see Sander be the kicker, like just kind of based off the body of work that we have seen this year. So like, if that's the best that they saw in practice, I'm a little anxious about it, I think would be the best way to say it. But then I will also say this happened, the exact same situation happened last year, and Alex Falcons was pretty damn good. So I don't know. We'll see.
No, I mean, I think it'll work itself out.
Score more touchdowns and then you don't have to worry about it type thing, you know?
Exactly.
It's an easy fix. We get everything else there? I think we talked about the game. You excited for this weekend?
The uniforms will look pretty on the field.
Okay. Were you alive the last time these two teams played?
No.
It was 68.
Oh, well, no, because it would have been, I don't know. I didn't look at the schedule of what time in December it was. So I'm going to say no.
Okay. I was going to say, I wasn't sure if you were.
No, it probably would have been sooner than mid-December. So no.
Okay. I'm interested to see what happens on Saturday. I'm fascinated by everything that goes into like what we talked about with the time. I'm fascinated with just like I kind of want Penn State to take a little bit more of a step forward, and it's not that they haven't taken steps forward, but I just want to see them take maybe a little bit more of a step forward, and I'll feel better. So
well, and they've got Big Noon here. They got Gus Johnson. This feels like, people talk about it and it's an easy storyline, a style points game. This feels like one of those ones where they're going to want to like.
I don't disagree.
Make it look good.
Yeah, that's a good point. Okay. All right, this week's Old Guy, Young Guy. More food talk. Hold on. Let me find our text messages. I want to make sure we got everything. Yeah, we got everything. All right. Here's what I want to know. Here's why I was thinking about this first. What is an expensive meal? What do you consider to be an expensive meal, or maybe a better term is fancy meal? I went to Outback the other night, and it was like by myself because Anna obviously doesn't eat meat, as we just discussed, and it was like $25 for me to eat Outback by myself, and I literally just got a steak and mashed potatoes. I thought, this is kind of expensive. So is that an expensive meal? What is an expensive meal for Steve?
Yeah, that's an expensive Outback meal, right? Like if it's just you.
Yeah.
Look, I mean, we could, if there's two people, right? I guess if we had two people, appetizers, probably going to be two full dessert. If we can get out of there without alcohol, although I'm going to say if I get out of there without alcohol for like $60, that's $30 a piece. But if it's a nice meal, it's probably a step up. Not that Outback isn't bad, and if they want to sponsor us, hey, come on along. But yeah, that seems. I don't know that we don't really go to fancy places. I'm more like, hey, get me this cool sandwich shop in Belfont or something like that kind of thing. But I still might be in $15 or $18 a person, right?
Okay. That's fair. I think it's about that, like anything 20 plus per person feels expensive, I think would be the best way to say that. Like if it's $40, but you're looking at $50 with tip, then once taxes and all that's through, I feel like that's where an expensive meal starts.
Right, and that's pre-alcohol. Like, I mean, if you have the alcohol and you're not under $20 to begin with, right? You just because you got your drinks. So
right. Yeah. Okay. All right. So on the flip side, what's a cheap meal? Like,
so where do you take Anna for dinner?
Well, so like
if it's not eating me, like where's a nice place for dinner?
That's an expensive meal? or a cheap or like a medium price. Like
like where are you going to go for dinner that you're not breaking the bank and going to have a good time?
I would say anywhere from $40 to $60 is a like with inflation is a fine range, I think, because like you said, like we're usually, we don't get apps, but we usually each get our own meal, and then we'll at least usually get at least one drink a person. So I think $40 to $60, and I think anything below $40 is cheap. Like I'm thinking like any of the bars in Altoona, like when you go get food there, like that's a cheap meal to me, as opposed
that's
to.
probably fair. No, if I get wings from the Legion, right, or we go to the Port Hotel, right, probably not the most expensive meal of whatever, but it's still good. I know what I'm getting,
Right.
And go from there. And for us, there's not a lot. I mean, I've said this a lot, but I guess never on a podcast. So say goodbye to free meals. Although I've never gotten free meals, so it's okay. Like there's not a place in State College where I'm, oh my gosh, we have to go to dinner there. Like I don't know. I mean, there's a couple places in Bellefonte. I'm like, oh okay, I want to try that place out. And we've been there before, and I'd go back. So yeah.
No, that's fair. I think the one place that always has my heart is the Fraser Street Deli, but R.I.P. You know, I think that was like a dependable. I think was the best way to say that. I think.
Yep.
So.
No, I agree.
All right. Normal stuff on the blog. New hats, winter hats, and trucker hats are now available for purchase. I had another idea for stuff. I'll see if they have it, like the actual product. So we'll see if that comes to fruition. What will come to fruition is a game preview story. Steve's going to write something this week. Also, Penn State men's hockey starts this week. So I will probably do some sort of season preview, unless you want to do some sort of season preview. Can discuss that later. That's about it. Yeah. Thanks to Dave for joining us. Thanks to Anna for joining us. 5 stars, thumbs up. Am I missing anything? Other than normal?
No, love having guests and guest stars. That's great.
Great. 5 stars, thumbs up. Website is called StuffSummerSays.com. On that website, there's a section called With Steve. I've got an email. Mine's Darian at StuffSummerSays.com. Steve's is
Steve at StuffSummerSays.com.
And then my Twitter handle is at StuffSummerSays, and Steve's is
at Steve Samsel.
All right. See ya.